Boston in the rain. We ran across the commons to our room in fire. Ooh. Sweet memories. Sometimes I wonder, are they real? Dreamtime isn't bad. Nah, not bad. The I Ching for the week of March 7th, 2016, number 63, GG already crossing. Above is Khan, the gorge, taking risks. Below is Li, the radiance of fire. The wisdom, you are approaching a great crossing, a turning point in life, and you are looking good. Check your arrogance at the door. Yeah. Take a pause. Reflect on your actions toward your greater good during this cycle. You see the good you've done in some places that may need correction. That's cool. This is the cycle of living in these times. As you reflect on the positive, see how you have come to balance in much of your activities. Yeah, looking good. You are now approaching a new and favorable cycle where your diligence will show up on the positive side of the ledger. You are crossing. This is an exciting time, for it is from here you can see across the shore and all that waits for you. That which you have been working for, dreamed, and kept in your heart is in view. You can feel it. This is good. The knowing of your progress is in place, as are you. The challenge is not to let your ego push you too fast or too far in these delicate moments before realizing your goals in love, business, emotions, and spirit. In the I Ching, an early version of the I Ching, there's a parable told. It will be of benefit to heed this lesson. Once there was a very wise old fox standing on the edge of a great river that had frozen in winter. The old fox contemplated crossing, for on the other side were many things of wonder and delight. There were ample mice to chase, other foxes to play with. There were playful female foxes to entice him, and there was a warm den waiting, prepared by his skulk, knowing he would come. Old Fox was meditating and watched across the river, looking at its ice and waiting for the right moment, the safe time, and the safe place to cross the frozen waters. As the old fox was in a fox-like meditation, a young, brash, very cute young fox came bounding up to the river's shore. Young fox also knew what lay across the river, for she had heard of it. The elders talked to this time of year, where excitement and initiation lie across on the other shore. Young fox to old fox and said, "Old fox, what are you doing? Come, let's go across the river. There's so much joy and comfort that awaits us." And old fox said nothing and continued to observe the river. The young fox said, "Well, if you will not come with me, too bad for you." And without a fare thee well, she began to head across the river. The wise old fox said calmly and quietly, "Be careful. The ice is very thin in many places. It is not yet time to cross." So, as this story is told, the ice is very thin in many places. And as young fox begins to cross, she hears, when she got midway, the ice was cracking, and the young little fox fell into the icy river and soaked her tail, freezing, and was humiliated in her crossing and had to make it the difficult very difficult way back in freezing water to where Old Fox was sitting. And she had to go back to the beginning and wait. Wait until she could start again. While young Fox was shaking, unable to move, our Old Fox looked at her, nodded, and tread carefully across on the ice, observing carefully, slowly, and made it handily to the other side. Take this story to heart now, and do not become enamored with how well you've done getting to where you stand and lusting for what awaits you. Your destiny is on the other side, so use caution. Be the Old Fox. This old tale tells you what all the planning, angst, sleepless nights, worry have been about for you. It's been preparation. You're well positioned now to achieve the completion of your goals for the highest good on this part of your journey, where you're remembering who you are, into your authenticity, and bringing a deepening of your contact with the inner light of wisdom that is guiding you to touch the divine. When you look at the positive notes being played in your life symphony, know that to stay in harmony, you must continue to be aware and awake and not allow yourself to slide into the feeling that you have done what's necessary and therefore you can rest from the work. That won't work. Because you're letting go of some old and tiresome cycles of pushing the boulder uphill 1 foot at a time and having it slip back 2. Even with this burden, you've done well. You've shouldered all this time, and you've made it to the positive point. Parts of you are truly exhausted, but don't worry, because your passion and action, you will be fed during this part of the passage to completion as you proceed with caution and discard the old patterns that have hindered you in the past, which is why you're taking a pause. Not yet to cross the river. As you complete this cycle, a new one is unfolding, so be alert. It is in the natural order of things that once something is born, it grows, and it matures, and it serves its purpose. It finishes its cycle, and it dies, turning into a rich compost to feed the next cycle that is just across the river. This is not a time for arrogance or complacency. You've had good accomplishments. You've done well. Don't let your ego get you. Look closely. Comprehend the lessons that were shown you during this difficult passage and integrate these into your daily life as wisdom that will radiate as light and love. By proceeding in such a manner, you will remain strong and resistant to decay, and your inner light will shine like the sun at midday. Much is well placed and in order in your life. The rites of passage that are before you now are vital for your quest for enlightenment and love and abundance. And you can have it all. But it's imperative that you remain calm, centered, and find stillness each day as you do your work and balance your hard work with rest, with fun, with celebration and gratitude for how far you've come. During the difficult passage to get here, you learned and used some tools that allowed you to stay on the mark. Whether it was meditation, walking, gardening, doing your practice, dancing. Whatever you've been doing, man, stay with it. Human beings, sometimes we tend to achieve our goals and then forget how we got there, letting go of our focus and discipline. Don't let your ego take hold and get you off your mark. This is a time to remain diligent to what is right for you and for the greater good. You didn't get here on your own. There are invisible helpers active with each of us at all times. And honor your teachers that got you here. We just need to show our humility for this kind of support by surrendering to our guidance in gratitude. In this way, it will remain active throughout your journey on the road less traveled. Pay attention to the life patterns you have recognized, and you've dropped them or you've modified them so you can move easier and move out of this past cycle. Take a careful inventory as you enter the next cycle of knowledge and abundance. With a still mind and a heart filled with gratefulness and compassion, recognize that you are now forever changed, and you're now able to accomplish much for the greater good. We're entering into a new time on earth where we have a shared vision in which wars and aggression will be quelled, where people will share instead of hoard, and all will embrace their neighbors across borders and across oceans to create a better and a more peaceful vibration for all of us. It won't happen overnight, but it all starts with us. No leader of any government can order this to happen. In the ancient texts, it says the greatest leaders, this is from Sun Tzu, lead from within. Here the task is to lead with compassion, with kindness, with dignity, integrity, as you make your passage to the coming cycle in your life. This is a universal balance that this hexagram is speaking of. Balance and harmony. All of life consists of an endless round of cycles, whether we're ready for them or not. These life cycles have their own periodicity, and they have their own agenda, just as summer does not wait for spring. So it is with our cycles in nature. The new cycle has already begun. Get it together and take the ride. It is in the nature of completion that there tends to be a minute area where decay can begin to form. This hexagram contains a caveat telling us that we must be constantly vigilant so we don't repeat old patterns, old thought forms, or activities that would cause decay to take root. If we fall back into our old dysfunctional patterns, the fallout will carry over into our next cycle, and then we'll have to repeat some not so pleasant feelings, heartache or illness. Remember the young fox? So how we handle this transition will influence the coming tide, and the coming round will be toward even more authenticity in your work, your relationships, and your inner and outer well-being. This is a correct time to be humble and acknowledge what you've learned in ritual and ceremony. Ritual is the means by which peoples throughout the ages have given homage to their relationships with the whole, with all beings, and with Gaia, the earth herself. Ritual helps us notice and frame our belief in who we truly are and that we are moving on. We're changing. It signals to the universal energies of which we are all an expression, that each cell of our body is expressing the whole. And it is shown that we're paying attention and that we're grateful for completion, grateful that we've survived and that we've learned. Be in the magnificence of gratitude and wear it as a magical cape that moves you forward and protects you as you love, and just as importantly, you let love in. Take a moment and bless this day that you've been given as you read this, as you hear this. Be grateful for the eyes that see, for the ears that hear, and for the body and the mind and spirit that is your ever-present companion. Dance the dance of love and celebrate you. Listen, love, and learn. As I was speaking, I remembered a story from a Native American story. And I think it's important to repeat it now, as we seem to have taken our planet for granted. And because of that, ecosystems are breaking down. We're not treating our planet well. And as we work hard on ourselves, we also will benefit from working to help feed the planet. The story is about Sky Woman. Sky Woman was amazing. She was beautiful. She lived in Sky World, where everything was beautiful and plants growing and beautiful trees and people and calm and absolute peace. And she was an adventurer, this goddess. And she was walking one day to the area where the tree of life grew. And she was in awe of this great tree. And as she walked, she looked down, and right there at the edge was a hole in the sky. And she looked down and she could see what we know as the earth, except the earth was dark. And it was all water, no land. And all that were there were the animals that lived in the sea, in the dark sea. And the birds that could fly in the air and land on the water, but that was it. And she looked and she was pretty much in awe. And she had a feeling and she didn't notice, and she began to slip. And she was falling down this hole, and she grabbed onto the tree of life and held the boughs close to her, and she went down and slipped down and fell through the hole in the sky. And she was going toward the earth, and she became a bright light. And all the beings were afraid as they looked up. They'd never seen anything like that. This bright, beautiful light coming down, and they hid. She was falling and falling, and the swans saw her falling, and they said, well, we must help her. We must catch her before she goes into the water. So all the swans got together, stretched out their wings, and they caught her on their wings. And she was also grateful, and they said, we can't support her up here in the sky for very long. We must set her down. And they called on the great turtle. Great turtle came to the surface, and they landed her on top of Great Turtle. And she looked around, and she saw that that was all there was. And the birds and the fish, they said, she needs earth. She needs earth beneath her. And they didn't know of it, but they had heard that at the bottom of the sea there was mud. So he said, we must go and get it. And first the pelican went down and tried and couldn't do it. It was too far. And the other birds tried, and the fish tried, and the beaver tried. And the last one was the muskrat, little muskrat. And it was very brave. And it said, I will go to the bottom. I will get it. And muskrat dove down. And they waited and waited and waited, and muskrat didn't come up. But finally he popped to the surface. But he wasn't breathing. He was gone. And they pulled him up onto the turtle's back, and they looked at his paws, and in his paws he was clutching something, and they opened it, and he had found earth, mud. And they opened his paws, and they spread it out on top of Great Turtle. And Sky Woman started to dance, and she was magic, and this little bit of dirt, this earth, started to spread, and land was made all across the earth. And there was land now, and there were seas, but the earth was barren. There was nothing. And she remembered that when she was falling, she grabbed the tree of life, and what she had grabbed were all the seeds for all the plants. And she took them and she began to spread them on the earth. And the earth became verdant and magic and beautiful. And it was perfect. Flowers and trees and vegetables and running springs and water. Sky Woman had brought that to earth. Take this lesson, and right now close your eyes and imagine what her earth looked like. How beautiful it was and how clean. For she set the tone for the beautiful ecosystems that had supported the earth and the animals that grew. And it was perfect. But our earth has become less perfect because of lack of attention and lack of consciousness. So what you saw and what you imagined wasn't your imagination. It was a gift from Sky Woman so you could see how the earth was. And you're asked now to do your work individually to bring our earth back to that beauty and that peace. So go forward into this week. Think about the crossing of the great river and keep your heart open. Listen, love, and learn. Namaste. In Lakesh Alakin. I am the other you. And I like it that way. Have a beautiful week. A blessed week. Be the love you want. And dance the dance of love. Maybe listen to a little Leonard Cohen.